This song is for all the superwomen and supergirls out here in the audience today, especially Elizabeth Warren. Everywhere I'm turning, nothing seems complete. Wearing on my shoulders for the better part of me. I hang my head from sorrow, yeah, the stain of humanity. Stand up and I'm searching for the strength in me. Why's that? 'Cause I am superwoman. Yes, I am. Yes, she is. Listen, even when I'm a mess, I still put on a vest with an S on my chest. Oh, yes, I'm a superwoman. For all the mothers fighting for better days to come, and all my women sitting here coming to come home before the sun. Listen, and all my sisters coming together, say yes I can, yes we will, 'cause I am superwoman. Say yes I am, yes I am, yes she is. Even when I'm a mess, I still put on a vest with an S on my chest. Oh yes, I'm a superwoman. Sing it with me. I'm a superwoman. Superwoman. Said I'm a superwoman. Superwoman. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Lawrence Mayor Dan Rivera, Suffolk County Sheriff Steve Tompkins, and Boston City Councilor Michelle Wu.
Good morning! Good morning, welcome to Lawrence, Massachusetts. Bienvenido a la ciudad de Lawrence, Massachusetts! My name is Dan Rivera, I'm the proud mayor of this fine city, and we are so excited to be here this morning to fight for someone who has and will always continue to fight for all of us. Our friend, Senator Elizabeth Warren! Now, you know this work of government isn't easy. We do it with a lot of people, and there's a lot of people in government who are doing fine work here supporting our senator, people that you'll see on stage, but we gotta make sure you know who's in the audience with us. Suzanne Bump, our state auditor, is with us. Karen Spilka, our fine Senate president, was with us. Senator Chandler is with us. Representative Vitolo is with us. Dan Cullinane with us. Rep. Hay. My Rep. Moran is here with us. Mindy Bonham is with us. Ken Gordon. Come on, don't get up, come on. Dane Rogers with us. Michelle Du Bois. Some fine mayors with us too. Kim Driscoll, the fine city of Salem. And our friend from Holyoke, Alec Morse. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor of standing with two of my closest friends this morning. We all had the honor of working to make Elizabeth Warren the first woman elected to the United States Senate from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in 2012. Now, woo! Now, I don't know if you remember that election, that campaign changed Massachusetts. It changed really that time. It changed the nation. But it also changed our lives. And for the past 6 years, we've stayed connected. And the fruits of that is that we were staffers, and now we have a mayor, a sheriff, and the first woman to be city council president in Boston. Over that time, we've cried together, we resisted together, and you know what? We sure as hell persisted together. And we're a family, and there's no place we would rather be this morning. This morning, we gather in the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution and the labor movement, the place where women at the turn of the century first led the fight for fair wages and safer working conditions. They wanted dignity in the workplace. That's why they said, we want bread, but we want roses too. We gather in a place where hardworking people from all over the world, places like Ireland and Italy, Poland and Lebanon, Syria, Germany, and later Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. we have all come in pursuit of a dream, an American dream, a dream of prosperity and opportunity, the dream of a life you can be proud of. And we gather in this place that has long been kicked down, this place that has oftentimes been counted out and been told that the American dream is not for you. It's only for a select few. But you know what we do in Lawrence? Nevertheless, we persist. That's why I'm very proud to call Lawrence my home, a city that believes, even in the darkest hours, even when there's fire and explosions, we stand together, when we fight together, when we persist together, the American dream can be ours. But that promise is not just for us, it's for our children and our children's children, whether they're born rich or born poor, whether they're born in a city, a suburb, or small town, born gay, straight, or trans, Christian, Muslim, or Jew. The promise of America belongs to all of us. It's that very dream that brings us here today, because here's the truth. To make that dream a reality, we need a friend and partner in the White House. And that partner for us can be Elizabeth Warren. Para hacer esa realidad, ese sueño americano, necesitamos una amiga, una compañera en la Casa Blanca. Y para nosotros puede ser Elizabeth Warren. Now, I've known Elizabeth, I'm going to get a little personal for a second, for a little while now. And last year, when the gas explosions crippled our city, one of the first calls I got, one of the first visits we got, was from all the elected officials that came through, was from Elizabeth Warren. And that's just who she is. Elizabeth will fight for us to tip the scales back into the working family side. She will see immigrants for what we are, the backbone of America. All you have to do, all you have to do is listen to Elizabeth Warren's mom's story. The fear of losing a home, or not having enough money to pay the bills, or the grocery shopping list. I call that paycheck stress. You know, you felt that paycheck stress. The fear that no matter if you work a full week or overtime, an honest week of work, that when you get that paycheck, it just ain't gonna make it. Paycheck stress turns your stomach. It makes you lose sleep. It embarrasses you. And one thing I know about Elizabeth Warren is that she knows what it means to grow up in a family that lives paycheck to paycheck, that has experienced that. And when you see that as a young kid, like she saw it, when you feel that as a young kid, you'll never forget it. And that's why I'm proud to be here today, because in Elizabeth Warren, we have someone who will never forget what and who she is fighting for. A person that is honored to hold the awesome power of the presidency of the United States, will use that power to rid the paycheck stress from every child's stomach. Rid that check stress from mothers and fathers' stomachs everywhere. And it's not just a vision. She'll make it her mission. Her mission to make sure that paycheck stress is gone from everybody's stomach and we never feel that way anymore. So join me in celebrating and getting behind our great Senator, Elizabeth Warren. And now, it's my distinct honor to introduce someone who has been fighting side by side with the senator since she first ran for Senate in 2012. He's my friend. He's one of the kindest guys, despite, he's got a badge and a gun. He's one of the kindest guys, but one of the toughest public servants I know. Our friend, Sheriff Steve Tompkins!
Good morning, Lawrence! Is Lawrence in the house? I like that. Good lungs. Good lungs. I'm going to read something to you that you've all heard, something that's made this country great, something that we cannot forget, and something that we have to re-embrace. We the people. Let me say it again for those back in the cheap seats. We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish our Constitution of the United States of America. Over 200 years ago, those powerful and prophetic words set the stage for a fight to claim the very soul of this nation, a fight for fairness, a fight for equality, and a fight for justice in America. We're here this morning because we know that fight is far from over. Too many families are living paycheck to paycheck. Too many politicians are bought and paid for by the rich and powerful. Too many black and brown folks are facing blatant bigotry at the ballot box. Yeah, that fight has yet to be won. And that fight calls for a battle-tested champion. A champion that does not wilt when the going gets tough. Someone who will commit herself to combating indifference, misogyny, and bigotry even if it comes from the height of government. That fight calls for Senator Elizabeth Warren! Senator Warren knows we are living in challenging times. While Wall Street, millionaires like Danny, and billionaires going back, while Wall Street millionaires and billionaires are getting fatter and fatter, common folk, working people, the underserved, and the overlooked are being locked out and left behind. And Senator Warren knows that in times like these, we don't need another dose of lip service. We don't need to stick with the status quo. What we need is change!
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Lawrence Mayor Dan Rivera, Suffolk County Sheriff Steve Tompkins, and Boston City Councilor Michelle Wu.
Can you hear us now? There are some that say it's time to make America great again. America is great, but what we need to do is make America sane again. Please welcome our sister who's battled in the trenches with us, and one heck of a sterling person, City Councilor Michelle Wu!
Good morning, Massachusetts! First off, join me in giving a hand to Diana Mealy, our professional sign language interpreter, please. Good morning. My name is Michelle Wu. I'm proud to serve on the Boston City Council. And I'm proud to have amazing colleagues in government like Mayor Dan Rivera and Sheriff Steve Tompkins. Alongside the mayor and the sheriff, I got my start in politics with Elizabeth Warren. And even before that, I was her student. I first met Senator Warren 10 years ago. I was a first-year law student, and from the minute she walked into the classroom, you knew she was a real deal. She commanded the room with her passion and intensity. She focused on the facts, asked tough questions of her students, and you knew you had to come to her class prepared, basically the opposite of a Trump cabinet meeting. Senator Warren's law classes were why idealistic young people go to law school. I'm part of a legacy of decades of students who will tell you she was the best teacher we ever had. Why did we come away from her classes as better advocates? Because she didn't just teach how to argue a case or issue, but pushed us to dig deeper, not to accept the legal system as it is, but to understand the forces of power and influence that wrote the laws to begin with. We had a teacher who not only equipped her students with the tools to make change and to hold the system accountable, but inspired us with her own example. She would teach our class Monday through Wednesdays, then hop on a plane to Washington, D.C. for the rest of the week to oversee the regulations needed after the Wall Street bank bailouts. There, she spoke up for us and fought for the creation of a watchdog agency to level the playing field. We'd see clips of her on CNN and MSNBC grilling the Treasury Secretary or powerful US senators. And then we'd see her back in class the next day grilling us on our readings. She would go on to win that fight, creating the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. She did this to protect families from being at the mercy of powerful banks. And then when she saw Republicans block any path for her to run the watchdog agency, she wasn't surprised. She knew they tried to rig the system. She'd seen it before, she'd written about it, she'd taught it, and she knew that this was a fight that wouldn't be won easily. But she didn't back down. She geared up for a fight, and she ran for office. When I joined Senator Warren's first campaign, still as a law student, she told me this wouldn't be easy, that she'd be running against the National Republican Party, that unseating an incumbent would be an uphill climb. But she believed in the power of people. She believed that policies focused on people over corporate interests will win voters over. She believed that knocking on doors could overcome whatever advertising they would throw at her on TV. She believed that outworking the field is how you win campaigns. And we did it together. House party by house party, parade by parade, door by door, person by person. building the largest grassroots operation this state had ever seen. Know this, when Senator Warren sees someone in office who doesn't represent the people, she doesn't accept it. She gears up for a fight. In 2012, she fought against the ads, the polls, the corporate interests, and she took back the U.S. Senate seat as the first woman elected to the Senate from Massachusetts. Since then, she hasn't stopped fighting for us. In D.C. and around the country, she's built a progressive movement to empower all of us to create a future where every person has a voice. And she's inspired progressive young people, women, first-time candidates from every background, and communities who have been left behind to know that they can run and win elections too. She is a major reason why I ran for office and why countless other young people have run in Massachusetts. As a millennial elected official, I am thrilled by the energy in this new generation, running for Congress, for state rep, for city council, because we want bold ideas to fix the deep problems facing our generation, and we're ready to fight for it. When you look for bold leadership for America, you don't need to look further than right here in Massachusetts to our senator. I'm proud to have been a student of Elizabeth Warren's, to have worked on campaigns for her, to have voted for her, to see her representing us in the halls of power. And like all of us here, I'm excited to be part of the movement she is launching today. I'm excited for the bold ideas that she brings to this race. I'm excited because we've seen her go up against Republicans before. We've seen her start campaigns as the underdog before. We've seen her bring bold ideas that ignite the grassroots before. We've seen her win and then turn her platform into a foundation for changing the system together. I look forward to working with all of you over the next year and a half as we knock Donald Trump out of office.
Go!
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Congresswoman Lori Trahan.
Good morning. It is so great to be here with you today in this historic city during these historic times. This wonderful city of Lawrence embodies all our American values. The dignity of work, the contributions that Americans make to our national identity, and most recently since last September, what it means to pull together as a community during difficult times. The stakes in this presidential campaign could not be higher. The American people and the world are watching to make sure we get it right. It is critical that we elect a president who acknowledges the fact that while this economy might be working well for the wealthiest amongst us, the vast majority of hardworking Americans are being locked out of opportunity to earn a fair living and support their families. I know this struggle well. I grew up in a working class family right down the road in Lowell. My dad was a union iron worker, son of Portuguese immigrants. My mom worked multiple part-time jobs while raising my 3 sisters and me. Because of the dignity of hard work that my parents instilled in my sisters and me, I got a job at age 11, and like so many of you, I haven't stopped working since. I know and understand the inherent value of hard work, and I'll always be on the side of workers. But the truth is, despite what the stock market appears to say, wages have been stagnant for decades. Healthcare and prescription drugs continue to climb. The gender pay gap persists across industries. And more young people than ever before are being crushed under student loan debt, limiting their options from the moment they graduate. It is so clear to me that we need to fundamentally reorient our economy around helping hardworking families like yours, like the one I grew up in. And to do this, we need a champion in the White House. We need a champion like Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth will put her finger on the scale for working families, not banks, not multinational corporations, and not those who can afford to give millions of dollars to political candidates. It is my honor to be here today to support Elizabeth because she has fought for working class families her entire career. Elizabeth Warren has been fighting unapologetically against the status quo to advance a progressive agenda for workers and for women long before she got to the United States Senate. But since becoming a senator, we have felt her fight. She's brought the fight for economic fairness and for decency right to the White House and has been a tireless champion for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. For too long, Washington has taken around the edges for our most pressing issues while middle-class families struggle to stay afloat. No more. We could count on a President Warren to wake up each and every day and put the needs of the American people at the forefront of our policy debates and enact real, enduring, and significant change. Elizabeth has proven time and again that she is up to this challenge, and I am proud to be with her in this fight. Over a century ago, right here in Lawrence, it was women who helped lead the 1912 Lawrence textile strike, known to all of us as the Bread and Roses strike. Historians look back at this event and all agree it not only represented a tipping point for mill workers in Lawrence and New England, but for the entire labor movement across the United States. I believe we are at another such tipping point in the history of our nation, and I believe it is time for Lawrence to kick off another wave of change by sending Elizabeth Warren to the White House as our 46th president. We have such a lineup here today, but I have the distinct honor of introducing another champion for working people, a giant in Massachusetts politics that never shies away from a worthy fight. In fact, he proved that to us this week by his leadership in the Senate to make sure we have a new Green Deal in this country. I have the pleasure of serving alongside him in the United States Congress. Please join me in welcoming Senator Ed Markey.
Thank you to Laurie Trahan, and we thank Laurie for making Merrimack Valley proud, for being an incredible representative for all of the people here in Massachusetts and across the country. She is a star, and it is my honor to be here with her today. And I'm honored and I'm humbled to be here today with my dear friend and phenomenal partner in the United States Senate, Elizabeth Warren. Lawrence holds a special place in my heart. This is where my father grew up, on the first floor of a triple-decker on 88 Phillips Street in Lawrence, in the shadow of the mills. This is where my family worked. This is where I am from. And my father is a graduate of the vocational program at Lawrence High School. His son is a United States Senator. That was a dream for our family from Lawrence. And for my family, and for so many other families, Lawrence is a place where dreams come from. Dreams born of hope and fueled by hard work. Dreams of opportunity and equality. Dreams supported by the government that knows that the dreams of its people are a nation's greatest currency. Elizabeth Warren knows that those dreams are worth fighting for. And that is exactly what I have seen her do in the United States Senate. For 6 years, she has been fighting in the trenches for what is right for the people of Massachusetts and our entire country. From her one-woman protection detail, fighting to ensure that Wall Street reforms stay on the books so that retirement can be about dignity and not despair. Fighting to raise the minimum wage so that no one working 40 hours a week still lives in poverty. Fighting for our brothers and sisters in Puerto Rico to make sure they get the housing and support they deserve as American citizens. And she is fighting for the people in Lawrence and Andover and North Andover so that they are made whole after the natural gas explosions and fires last year, and that gas company is held accountable. I've been in Congress for a while now, and no one knows how to fight for what is right better than Elizabeth Warren. And these days, Fighting for what is right means fighting the dangerous, divisive, hateful agenda of Donald Trump. But the good news is that no one knows how to get under Donald Trump's skin better than Elizabeth Warren. Donald Trump may have his tweets, but Elizabeth Warren has her peeps who will be. We will always have her back because she will always have our back when she is in the White House. So she knows that this country is not about what one man can tear asunder, but what millions of people can build up together. And that true leadership is not about the beliefs you tear down, but about the dreams that you build up. Elizabeth knows it was the dream of fair treatment and a safe workplace in Lawrence that moved the mill workers to strike in 1912 and demand protections. She knows that it is a dream of a good job and a quality education that brings our immigrants to our shores, and that our democracy is stronger for those immigrants coming to our country. She knows that it is a dream of a college education and affordable health care that drives a single mother to work 2 jobs, take night classes, and count pennies. And she knows that it is the job of government to support the dreams of every man, woman, and child in this country so that their dreams can come true. And that is why I am here today. And that is why we believe in Elizabeth Warren and her dreams for our country. The dream in which women are paid $1 for every man's dollar, and paid family leave is the law of the land, and that universal health care should also mean universal child care and pre-kindergarten. And there is one more dream that I know all of us agree with. The dream that Elizabeth Warren will be the first female president of the United States of America. And we will make that dream a reality. Elizabeth Warren is as passionate, as brilliant, as effective a legislator with whom I have ever had the honor to serve. We are blessed to have her serving here in Massachusetts, and we will soon have her bring her passion and her brilliance and see her serving in the Oval Office of the White House. That is our dream. So let us get to work electing Elizabeth Warren as the next president of the United States and show the world that the dreams of all of our people to make this continue to be the greatest nation on earth. And now, ladies and gentlemen, 1 year after he brilliantly gave the Democratic response to Donald Trump to his State of the Union address last year, now to introduce our greatest response to Donald Trump in 2020, I give you the great Congressman from the state of Massachusetts, Joe Kennedy.
Good morning, everybody. How we doing? Welcome to sunny and warm Lawrence, Massachusetts. I am so honored and grateful to be with you guys. And I am so thrilled to be able to introduce the next President of the United States, Elizabeth Warren. Almost. ¿Ustedes están listos para elegir la próxima presidente de los Estados Unidos? Folks, I want to tell you for a second why I'm here on the very first day of this historic campaign. I'm here because I represent places like Fall River and Taunton and Attleboro. These are proud Massachusetts hometowns, like Lawrence. Like Lawrence, where there is a legacy of work, of hard work, and where folks don't ask for much in return, just the ability to take care of the ones that they love, to do right by themselves and their families. And I'm here because their story is your story. It's a story that I've seen in McAllen, Texas, and Tampa, Florida, and in Charleston, West Virginia. In cities like Detroit, and Phoenix, and in South Bend. Communities that are full of grit and fight. And a country whose broken economy takes every single ounce of it for granted. A system that has made it difficult to be middle class, excruciating to be poor, and downright impossible to be poor and black, poor and brown, poor and female, poor and gay, poor and old or sick or addicted. Folks, today we are a country of soaring stock prices and global profits and global force. But we are also a country of working poor, of hunger in rich places, and of deep worry for what tomorrow brings. And this has been our fight. The painful disconnect that we have seen for decades. And another young senator named Robert Kennedy discussed some 50 years ago. He said, our gross national product, if we judge the United States of America by that, does not allow for the health of our children, the quality of their education, the joy of their play. It measures neither our compassion nor our devotion to our country. It measures everything, in short, except that which makes life worthwhile. And it tells us everything about America, except for why we are proud to be Americans. Half a century later, economic injustice remains the challenge of our time, tangled with every other cause we carry: racial discrimination, immigration, climate change, healthcare. And so, friends, I am here with you all today because there's one candidate in this race. There is one U.S. Senator. There is one proud daughter of Oklahoma and adopted daughter of our Commonwealth who has dedicated her entire life to this battle, to our cause. For decades before anyone in power noticed something was wrong, there was Elizabeth. Before most Democrats stood up and said, yes, we passed the Civil Rights Act, and the Fair Labor Standards Act, and the Fair Housing Act, and even Dodd-Frank. But it's not enough. Before there was an editorial every day lamenting about economic inequality, Elizabeth Warren knew that stock prices don't offer a full accounting of our country's economic story. Medical bankruptcies, foreclosures, and paychecks are part of that story too. And the most powerful nation on earth, with the most powerful economy in human history, doesn't have to sacrifice people for progress. That is the truth that echoes through these rafters at Everett Mills, where workers fought not just for their livelihood, but their dignity. Hearts starve as well as bodies. Give us bread, but give us roses. Small art and love and beauty, their drudging spirits knew. Yes, it is bread we fight for, but give us roses too. And ladies and gentlemen, that truth is the truth that has anchored Elizabeth Warren's career. I remember asking her years ago, why, of all things on earth, why bankruptcy? Of all the things you could have chosen, why bankruptcy? As a young student might say, why the incredibly complicated, arcane bankruptcy? And her response, because bankruptcy is about how our system treats people after they lose everything. When rock bottom comes. And the deeper meaning she took from that ours is a country of second chances, of redemption, of horizons that don't disappear when fate gives you a tough hand. That our national character is not measured by how high those soar, but by how we do when folks are broken, when they are on their knees, when they are empty, and when they want to rise again. In Elizabeth Warren's America, we pull them up. We fight by their side. We refuse to leave anyone behind. We will not splinter and we will not segregate. We refuse to accept a status quo that tells us that big things are impossible, that progressive dreams unreachable. And we reject a president who tells us that we are each other's enemy. Who forces America to fight over the scraps in a system instead of uniting against the system, who deems them only worthy of scraps to begin with. And so I'm here with you today because this country, our country, needs a leader who will restore the solidarity that Donald Trump stole. Who will not cower from the big, tough battles, from the ugly injustice and oppression that still finds its way to American soil. A leader who will bring this country together to take on our greatest threat. A system that protects the powerful and the privileged, while the rest struggle to get by. That leader, ladies and gentlemen, is a colleague, a mentor, and a friend. That leader is the next president of the United States. That leader is Elizabeth Warren. Please join me in welcoming the next president of the United States of America, Senator Elizabeth Warren.
Tumble out of bed and I stumble to the kitchen, pour myself a cup of ambition and yawn and stretch and try to come to life. Jump in the shower and the blood starts pumping. Out on the streets the traffic starts jumping. Folks like me on the job from 9 to 5. Working 9 to 5. your mind and they never give you credit. It's enough to drive you crazy if you let it. 9 to 5 for service and devotion. You would think that I would deserve a fair promotion. Want to
Good morning, Lawrence. So, in the 12 years that I've known Joe Kennedy, I've watched him up close as he fights every day for what he believes in. Joe is a good man and a good friend. Thank you for being here today, Joe. Thank you. And thank you to all of our dynamic speakers who've been keeping everybody fired up and everybody warmed up this morning. And thank you to the best partner ever in the United States Senate. He's been fighting for climate change, and now he's fighting for a Green New Deal, Ed Markey. Let's re-elect him to the Senate next year. And thank you to a woman who is now making her own way in the halls of Congress, Lori Trahan. And thank you to Councilor Michelle Wu, to Sheriff Steve Tompkins, to Mayor Danny Rivera, great leaders and longtime friends. And thank you to Karen Spilka and to colleagues in the State House and other local leaders, all of whom are with us here today. Thank you. And most of all, thank you. Thank you to everyone. I love you too. Thank you to everyone who's traveled here to Lawrence. I am deeply grateful that you came here on a cold and blustery day to be part of this announcement. Thank you. Thank you. So, I want to tell you a story. A little over 100 years ago, textile mills in Lawrence, like the ones behind us today, employed tens of thousands of people. Immigrants flocked here, think about this, from more than 50 countries for a chance to work in these looms. Lawrence was one of the centers of American industry. Yeah. Business was booming. The guys at the top were doing great. But workers made so little money that families were forced to crowd together in dangerous tenements, and many lived on beans and scraps of bread. Inside the mills, working conditions were horrible. Children were forced to operate dangerous equipment. Workers lost hands and arms and legs in the gears of machines. 1 out of every 3 adult mill workers died by the time they were 25. And then, on January 11th, 1912, a group of women who worked right here at the Everett Mill discovered that their bosses had cut their pay. And that was it. The women said, enough is enough. They shut down those looms and they walked out. And soon, workers walked out at another mill in town, and then another, until 20,000 textile workers across Lawrence were on strike. Now, these workers, led by women, didn't have much. They didn't even have a common language. Nevertheless, they persisted. They organized, they embraced common goals, they translated the minutes of their meetings into 25 different languages, so that the English and Irish workers who'd been here for years, and the Slavic and the Syrian workers who were new to America could all stand together. Now, they hammered out their demands: fair wages, overtime pay, and the right to join a union. Big businesses at that time called those demands a threat to the very survival of America. And the bosses were determined to shut it down. They spread rumors and fear about the strikers. One factory owner even paid a guy to plant sticks of dynamite around town so that he could frame the workers as a violent mob. The mill owners also owned city government. And city government declared martial law and called in the militia. Some strikers died in violent clashes with the police. Understand, it was a hard fight. Families that were already going to bed hungry had to make do with even less. They were cold, they were under attack, but they stuck together and they won. Higher wages, overtime pay, everybody back at work. And those workers did more than improve their own lives. They changed America. Within weeks, more than 250,000 textile workers throughout New England got raises. Within months, Massachusetts became the first state in the nation to pass a minimum wage law. And today, there are no children working in factories. We have a national minimum wage and national worker safety laws. Workers get paid overtime, and we now have a 40-hour week. That's right, that's right. Because of the workers right here in Lawrence and all across the country, we have weekends. The story of Lawrence is a story about how real change happens in America. It is a story about power, our power, when we fight together. Today, millions and millions and millions of American families are also struggling to survive in a system that's been rigged by the wealthy and the well-connected. Hardworking people are up against a small group that holds far too much power, not just in our economy, but also in our democracy. Like the women of Lawrence, we are here to say enough is enough. We are here to take on a fight that will shape our lives, our children's lives, and our grandchildren's lives, just as surely as the fight that began in these streets more than a century ago. Because the man in the White House is not the cause of what is broken. He is just the latest and most extreme symptom of what's gone wrong in America, a product of a rigged system that props up the rich and powerful and kicks dirt on everyone else. So once he's gone, we can't pretend that none of this ever happened. It won't be enough just to undo the terrible acts of this administration. We can't afford just to tinker around the edges, a tax credit here, a regulation there. Our fight is for big structural change. This is the fight of our lives, the fight to build an America where dreams are possible, an America that works for everyone. And that is why I stand here today to declare that I am a candidate for President of the United States of America. Now, the truth is, I've been in this fight for a long time. I grew up in Oklahoma on the ragged edge of the middle class. Now, when my daddy had a heart attack, my family nearly tumbled over the financial cliff. But we didn't. My mother, who was 50 years old and had never worked outside the home, walked to Sears and got a minimum wage job answering the phones. That job saved our house, and it saved our family. I ended up at a commuter college that cost $50 a semester. But think about it. That is how the daughter of a janitor managed to become a public school teacher, a law professor, and a United States senator. I believe in an America of opportunity. I've spent most of my life studying what happened to families like mine, families caught in the squeeze, families that go broke. And what I found was that year after year, the path to economic security had gotten tougher and rockier for working families, and even tougher and even rockier for people of color. I also found this wasn't an accident. It wasn't inevitable, no. Over the years, America's middle class has been deliberately hollowed out, and families of color have been systematically discriminated against and denied their chance to build some security. Now, it started very quietly. The richest and most powerful people in America, they were rich. I mean, really rich. But they wanted to be even richer, and they didn't care who got hurt. So every year, bit by bit, they lobbied Washington and paid off politicians to tilt the system just a little more in their direction. And year by year, bit by bit, more of the wealth and opportunity went to the people at the very top. And that is how today, in the richest country in the history of the world, tens of millions of people are struggling to get by. Since the early 1970s, adjusted for inflation, wages in America have barely budged, but the cost of housing has gone up nearly 2/3. The cost of college has nearly tripled, and 40% of Americans couldn't find $400 to cover an emergency. That is millions of hardworking people in this country whose lives would be turned upside down if the transmission fell out of the car or somebody got sick and missed a week at work. The middle class squeeze is real, and millions of families can barely breathe. It is not right. It's not right. disaster has touched every community in America. And for communities of color that have stared down structural racism for generations, the disaster has hit even harder. Take home ownership, the number one way that middle-class families build wealth in our country. Back in 1960, it was legal to discriminate against families of color. And the gap between white homeownership and black homeownership rates was 27 percentage points. That's a lot. Over time, we changed the law to prohibit that kind of discrimination, and the gap began to close. But today, the home ownership gap between black and white families is 30 percentage points, bigger than it was back in 1960 when housing discrimination was actually legal. Race matters, and we need to say so. And we can't be blind to the fact that the rules in our country have been rigged against other people for a long time. Women, LGBTQ Americans, Latinos, Native Americans, immigrants, people with disabilities, and we need to call it out. But over the course of a generation, the rules of our economy have gotten rigged so far in favor of the rich and powerful that everyone else is at risk of being left behind. Listen to this. In the 1940s, 90% of all kids were destined to do better than their parents. By the 1980s, the odds had slipped to 50-50. And now, we could be the first generation in American history where more kids do worse than their parents. And meanwhile, the rich and powerful seem to break the rules and pay no price. No matter what they do, they grow richer and more powerful. Bailouts for bankers that cheat, tax cuts for companies that scam, subsidies for corporations that pollute. That's what a rigged system looks like. Too little accountability for the rich, too little opportunity for everyone else. Now, when I talk about this, some rich guys scream, class warfare. Well, let me tell you something. These same rich guys have been waging class warfare against hardworking people for decades. I say it's time to fight back. Yep. To protect their economic advantages, the rich and powerful have rigged our political systems as well. They bought off and bullied politicians in both parties to make sure that Washington is always on their side. Some of them have even tried to buy their way into public office. So today, our government works just great for oil companies, defense contractors, great for private prisons, great for Wall Street banks and hedge funds. It's just not working for anyone else. And when it comes to climate change, our very existence is at stake. But Washington refuses to lift a finger without permission from the fossil fuel companies. That's dangerous and it's wrong. And it isn't just climate change. Look at any other major issue in America. Gun violence, student loan debt, the crushing cost of health care, mistreatment of our veterans, a broken criminal justice system. an immigration system that lacks common sense and under this administration lacks a conscience. Overwhelming majorities of Americans want action. Huge crowds march on Washington demanding change. Letters, phone calls, protests, but nothing happens. Nothing. Why? Because if you don't have money and you don't have connections, Washington doesn't want to hear from you. When government works only for the wealthy and the well-connected, that is corruption, plain and simple, and we need to call it out. Corruption is a cancer on our democracy, and we will get rid of it only with strong medicine, with real structural reform. Our fight is to change the rules so that our government, our economy, and our democracy work for everyone. And I want to be crystal clear about exactly what I mean when I say that. First, we need to change the rules to clean up Washington, end the corruption. Now, we all know the Trump administration is the most corrupt in living memory. But even after Trump is gone, it won't do just to do a better job of running a broken system. We need to take power in Washington away from the wealthy and well-connected and put it back in the hands of the people where it belongs. And that is why I have proposed the strongest and most comprehensive anti-corruption law since Watergate. Let me just give you some examples, just some examples. Shut down the revolving door between Wall Street and Washington. End lobbying as we know it. And while we're at it, ban foreign governments from hiring lobbyists in Washington. Oh, and make justices of the United States Supreme Court follow a basic code of ethics. Ban members of Congress from trading stocks. How's that not already illegal? Oh, and just one more. Make every single candidate for federal office put their taxes online. I've done it. You bet. So that's one. Root out corruption in Washington. Now two. Change the rules to put more economic power in the hands of the American people, workers and small businesses. Middle-class families and people of color who've been shut out of their chance to build wealth for generations. And again, that requires real structural change. Right now, giant corporations in America have too much power, and they just roll right over everyone else. We need to put power back in the hands of workers. Make it quick and easy to join a union. Unions built America's middle class. Unions will rebuild America's middle class. Yeah. And make American companies accountable for their actions. Raise wages by putting workers in those corporate boardrooms where the real decisions are made. Break up monopolies when they choke off competition. Take on Wall Street banks so that the big banks can never again threaten the security of our economy. And when giant corporations and their leaders cheat their customers, stomp out their competitors, and rob their workers, let's prosecute them. You know, and one more thing. I am tired of hearing that we can't afford to make real investments in childcare, college, and Medicare for all. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of hearing that we can't afford to make investments in things that create economic opportunities for families. I'm tired of hearing that we can't afford to make investments in things like housing and opioid treatment. Can't afford to address things like rural neglect or the legacy of racial discrimination. I'm tired of hearing what we can't afford because it's just not true. We are the wealthiest nation in the history of the world. Of course we can afford these investments. But we need a government that makes different choices, choices that reflect our values. Stop handing out enormous tax giveaways to rich people and giant corporations. Stop refusing to invest in our children. Stop stalling on spending money, real money, on infrastructure and clean energy and a Green New Deal. And start asking the people who have gained the most from our country to pay their fair share. And that includes real tax reform in this country. Reforms that close loopholes and giveaways to the people at the top. And an ultra-millionaires tax to make sure that rich people start doing their part for the country that made them rich. Okay. So that's one, clean up Washington. That's two, change the rules in our economy. And now three, change the rules to strengthen our democracy. And that starts with a constitutional amendment to protect the right of every American citizen to vote and to have that vote counted. Oh, and that's just the beginning. Overturn every single voter suppression rule that racist politicians use to steal votes from people of color. Outlaw partisan gerrymandering by Democrats or Republicans. And overturn Citizens United. Our democracy is not for sale. And by the way, if we truly believe that, then we also need to end the unwritten rule of politics that says that anyone who wants to run for office has to start by sucking up to a bunch of rich donors on Wall Street and powerful insiders in Washington. So, I'm opting out of that rule. I'm not taking a dime of PAC money in this campaign. There's more. I'm not taking a single check from a federal lobbyist. I'm not taking applications from billionaires who want to run a super PAC on my behalf. And I challenge every other candidate who asks for your vote in this primary to say exactly the same thing. So, it's not just elections. Real democracy requires equal justice under law. It's not equal justice when a kid with an ounce of pot can get thrown in jail while a bank executive who launders money for a drug cartel can get a bonus. We need reform. It's not equal justice when, for the exact same crimes, African Americans are more likely than whites to be arrested, more likely to be charged, more likely to be convicted, and more likely to be sentenced. Yes, we need criminal justice reform, and we need it now. And one more thing we need to do to strengthen our democracy. We must not allow those with power to weaponize hatred and bigotry to divide us. More than 50 years ago, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. went to Montgomery and warned us about the danger of division. He talked about how bigotry and race baiting are used to keep black Americans divided from white Americans so that rich Americans can keep picking all their pockets. That playbook has been around forever. Whether it's white people against black people, straight people against gay people, middle-class families against new immigrant families, the story is the same. The rich and powerful use fear to divide us. We're done with that. Bigotry has no place in the Oval Office. This is who we are. We come from different backgrounds, different religions, different languages, different experiences. We have different dreams. We are passionate about different issues, and we feel the urgency of this moment in different ways. But today, we come together, ready to raise our voices together until this fight is won. Our movement won't be divided by our differences. It will be united by the values we share. We all want a country where everyone, not just the wealthy, everyone can take care of their families. We all want a country where every American, not just the ones who hire armies of lobbyists and lawyers, everyone can participate in democracy. A country where every child can dream big and reach for real opportunity. And we are in the fight to build an America that works for everyone. So look, I get it. This won't be easy. Now, there are a lot of people out there with money and power and armies of lobbyists and lawyers. People who are prepared to spend more money than you and I could ever dream of to stop us from making any of these solutions a reality. People who will say it's extreme or radical to demand an America where every family has some economic security and every kid has a real opportunity to succeed. And I say to them, get ready, because change is coming faster than you think. Yeah, look, this kind of fundamental change will be hard. A lot of people, including some of our friends, will tell us it's going to be so hard it isn't even worth trying. But we will not give up. I want to tell you one last story. So when I was home with my first baby, I got this notion that I would go to law school. Now, it was a crazy idea, but I persisted. And it took me some time, but eventually I figured out the admissions tests and the applications, and I worked out how to pay my tuition, and I mapped out the 45-minute commute to the campus. And weeks out, I had just one thing left on my checklist: childcare. My daughter Amelia was nearly 2 years old, and I looked for childcare. I looked everywhere. I struck out over and over and over. So we're down to the weekend before law school was supposed to start, and I finally found this small place with a cheerful teacher and a nice little play area, and nothing smelled funny, and I could afford it. But the place would only take children who were dependably potty trained. So I looked over at Amelia. She was happily pulling toys off the shelf, her diaper barely covered by her pink stretchy pants. Dependably potty trained. I now had 5 days to dependably potty train an almost 2-year-old. All I can say is, I stand before you today courtesy of 3 bags of M&Ms and a cooperative toddler. And since that day, I've never let anyone tell me that anything is too hard. Now, how they have tried. People said it would be too hard to build an agency that would stop big banks from cheating Americans on mortgages and credit cards. But we got organized, we fought back, we persisted, and now that consumer agency has forced these banks to refund nearly $12 billion directly to people they cheated. Yes. And when Republicans tried to sabotage the agency, I came back here to Massachusetts and then ran against one of them. Now, no woman had ever won a Senate seat in Massachusetts, and people said it would be too hard for me to get elected. But we got organized, we fought back, we persisted, and now I am the senior senator from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So no, I am not afraid of a fight, not even a hard fight. When the women of Everett Mill walked out from their machines and out into that cold January air all those years ago, they knew it wouldn't be easy. But they also knew what was at stake for themselves and their families. And they weren't going to let anyone tell them it was too hard. Doubters told the abolitionists, it's too hard. Skeptics told the suffragettes, it's too hard. Cynics told the trust busters, it's too hard. Naysayers told the foot soldiers of the civil rights movement, it's just too hard. But they all kept right on going, and they changed the history of America. And sure, there'll be plenty of doubters and cowards and armchair critics this time around. But we learned a long time ago, you don't get what you don't fight for. We are in this fight for our lives, for our children, for our planet, for our futures, and we will not turn back. My daddy ended up as a janitor, but his little girl got the chance to be a public school teacher, a college professor, a United States senator, and a candidate for president of the United States. I am grateful all the way to my bones. Grateful and determined. So here's the promise I make to you today. I will fight my heart out so that every kid in America can have the same opportunity I had, a fighting chance to build something real. I will never give up on you or on your children and their future. I am in this fight all the way. Okay. It's a long way to Election Day, but our fight starts here, and it starts with every one of you. It starts with your decision to get involved right now. So join us on ElizabethWarren.com. Help us organize, volunteer, pitch in $5. We need everyone in this fight. Everyone. The textile workers here in Lawrence, more than 100 years ago, won their fight because they refused to be divided. Today, we gather on those same streets, ready to stand united again. This is our moment in history, the moment we are called to. This is our moment to dream big, fight hard, and win.